Alright, here we go. Based off the title of this video, I'm assuming you can guess what this video is going to be about today. It's going to be about how I got brain cancer at 21 years old and how I beat it. So let's dive into it. So this all happened back in March. I wasn't really feeling great, had all these headaches and nausea and vomiting, and I'd go to like urgent care clinics and they were like, oh, well, you're probably just at the age where you're getting migraines, and these are probably just migraines and like migraine side effects. So I'm like, okay, I have no clue about headaches or migraines, sounds completely, logical to me. And so then one day my mom came up here for the weekend, and we were going to actually go see a doctor that next week to go maybe get like a scan or something, see what was wrong, because it got to the point where I was like, this can't just be migraines, there's probably something more. And so that weekend she came up here, and I'm saying up here, I mean up here in Lubbock. I'm currently a grad student here at Texas Tech. For those that don't know who I am, or that's just a little bit about me. And so first of all, wreck 'em for any Red Raiders out there watching. So my mom came up here, and while she was up here, I actually had a seizure in the car. We were just driving to go to Walmart. College kid, just got to capitalize on when mom's in town on groceries. So we were driving to Walmart, and I actually had a seizure in the car. Unresponsive, no recollection of that car ride. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in a wheelchair, getting wheeled into the ER, and once I'm in the ER, they run all the tests on me, try to figure out what's going on, and pass everything, so to say. So then, well, let's get a scan of his brain, and see what's going on. So I get the scan, and fall, kind of the staff's reaction, I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what yet at this point, but, and then they showed me, the imaging from the MRI, or CT, whatever it was, and what it was about a baseball-sized brain mass in my brain, and a bunch of fluid in my brain. And so at this point, I knew I was going to have to get admitted to the hospital. We didn't know what the steps were like, next steps were going to be. We just knew that I was going to have to be admitted in the hospital right then. This is a pretty critical situation. And so what happened was, next was we were going to have to get a drain put in my head to get all that fluid, like I said, out. So what happened was a bunch of spinal pressure fluid crept up into my brain, and was basically cutting off all the blood and oxygen from getting to my brain, and is what caused that seizure. And so next thing I know, I'm going to have a drain put in my head. And at this moment, it was pretty scary. I don't know, what it's going to be like. I don't know what all that entails, All I know is I have a baseball-sized brain mass in my brain that they don't know what it is. And so part of the thing was there was so much fluid in my brain, putting a lot of pressure on my brain, which is actually what was causing all the headaches and that sort of stuff. They had to get all that fluid out so they could get a clear MRI. I think maybe a day and a half passes, able to get that fluid down and out to a good level to where I could get that MRI and know what the next steps are of kind of my journey. At this point, my mindset throughout this was, just stay positive, stay positive. I kind of knew, all the eyes were on me at this moment. I kind of knew, everyone's feeding off of me, but just stay positive, stay strong, and just, I knew that my energy was gonna kind of, everyone was feeding off my energy. I kind of knew, from the doctors to the nurses to, my parents, my friends, family, I kind of knew that it was, feeding off of me. If I'm happy and in a good mood, they're probably going to be feeling the same way, at least to some degree. And I kind of carried that with me. And right before that MRI scan, which was at 3 a.m. by the way, which is brutal, but right before that scan, I knew, whatever's going to come from this scan, I'm not sure what's going to come from the scan, but I know whatever it is, I'm going to have to put in God's hands and, just trust into Him. And so that's pretty much what I did. From there, just kept praying and just prayed hard. Each day, just try to have a positive outlook, because, at this point, we still didn't know if I was going to need surgery, what the next steps were, but I just knew we got to stay positive, and got to just put my trust in God. So that's what I did, and then we were told that I was going to have surgery, which honestly, it wasn't too necessarily scary for me. My surgery was 10.5 hours. And when a lot of people hear that and they're like, wow, that must have been scary. And I don't think it necessarily, I wasn't too scared. I knew that, God's got me. He's going to have His healing hand in this as well. I knew, I'm in the best care I can be in right now, And I also kind of knew, all these headaches are going to be gone after the surgery, I knew, the root of the issue is solved, and I think especially for me too, knowing they have a plan for me, they have a treatment plan for me, they're gonna do the best they can to make me good, and so I just trusted in that. So woke up from 10.5 hour brain surgery, pretty much. Wasn't able to move the left side of my body hardly at all. So my tumor was in the back right part of my brain, so it affects everything inversely, so it affects the left side of the body. And so that's why I wasn't really able to move my left side of the body that well. And I also, from the surgery, to get to that area of my brain, which was in the most critical part of your brain, where my tumor was, to get to there, for surgery, you either pretty much pick 4 things: vision, hearing, speech, or motor skills, to get to that area. So my doctor told me, they always pick vision, because it's the easiest to fix, the easiest to kind of manage post-surgery, and that's also the one that they see the most recovery from if, you do lose it. And so I did lose about 15% of my peripheral vision, which is pretty much just like putting a finger up to your eye, not being able to see past that. That's pretty much that. Still have vision loss to this day. Field cut's what they call it, and it has gotten better since surgery. I am slowly, regaining that back, and some parts of it back. So God bless for that. And then after surgery, worked through with PT and stuff like that, regaining, my movements back in my left side. And I actually, so I got into the hospital on the 9th, had surgery on the 12th, and then was discharged on the 19th. And so, pretty quick recovery, all things considered, from a 10.5 hour brain surgery. And I think what got me through that was my mindset throughout that all. Post-surgery, all I wanted to be was just a quote-unquote normal kid as fast as I could. Knew that all I could control from this was my attitude and effort. I can't control what day I get out of the hospital. I can't control if they want to do another MRI. I can't control there's another test they want to run or something. All I could control in that moment was my attitude and effort, and so that's what I did. Just maintain to have that positive attitude throughout the time, and I knew my effort. I knew that how bad I wanted it was going to be what was going to happen. If that makes any sense at all. I knew, do pretty much from there, my mindset was like, how can I get out of the hospital as quick as I can, but do it the safest way possible? And so that's what I did pretty much. The doctors, the PT team that they had there on site at Covenant, they, would come with me and, let me walk around the hospital floor. At first I started out doing 1 lap a day, and then, 1 lap in the morning and 1 lap at night, and then it got to a point where I was like, well, can I do another lap? Like, I feel fine, let me do 2. And that 2 slowly turned into, let me do 2.5, let me do 3, let me do it timed for, minutes instead of, laps. And so, slowly just regaining that back. And I think, if it wouldn't have been for me, wanting to get out of there as quick as I could, I think it could have been very easy for me in that time frame to, just want to sit there and eat pudding cups until, I could move the left side of my body. But to be quite honest, that's just not who I am. I did not want to necessarily just sit there and lay, It killed me, not being able to, stand up just to go to the bathroom. I hated having to press a button for the nurse to come, walk me to the bathroom, So that was kind of that drive in me that wanted to, just get better as quick as you can. So that's pretty much what I did. And then towards the end of my time in the hospital, I think one of my coworkers came to visit me and was like, oh, like, like, we all miss you at the office, we can't wait to have you back. And he was like, we can't wait to see you, and just wish you the best recovery. And I told him when he left, I was like, I'll see you on Monday. And he kind of laughed at me and was like, just thought I was joking. But I was like, I was dead serious, And sure enough, went back to work in school on the 21st, on Monday, like I said, and pretty much from there, didn't look back. From there, started PT, didn't even qualify for OT, and I only did PT for about week and a half, 2 weeks, then was able to, fully have the strength back in my left side, body felt completely fine, energy levels were back to normal, and from then, we knew the next steps were, throughout this time, we're meeting with, after the hospital, meeting with oncologist and radiologist here in Lubbock, figure out what these next steps were. And what the next steps were is what the oncologist and and radiologist, and from there we knew that we were going to have to do radiation and chemo. And for me, I think that was kind of the hardest conversation I had throughout the whole time. I think for me, just growing up, you hear people do radiation, you hear about chemotherapy, but you have no clue necessarily what that means, or at least I didn't have any clue of what that means. I just knew it wasn't a good thing to have to do. So that was hard to hear. And from there, we decided what was going to be best for me long term was going to do the proton radiation therapy in back in Dallas. There's a center there. There's about 20 centers in the world that do the proton therapy, which is pretty much just a more advanced version of radiation that can kind of target the area down to the millimeter, and is a lot safer on side effects and that's something really that I took into consideration because of my age. I am very young. I want to have as minimal side effects as possible, and continue to live a healthy life from here. So went back home Easter weekend for 6 weeks, and did chemo and radiation every day for 6 weeks, and then came back to Lubbock, and from there had a MRI back in July, and the MRI results from there were to just kind of see what happened, to see if the chemo and radiation worked, or so from the reason for that is because from surgery, there's about a thumbnail amount of tumor left in my brain, and it sits in my brain this way, so kind of confusing, I know, but it's really not that big, and the reason they left it from surgery was because it was too deep in my brain to get to. I would have either lost, it would have really affected me from surgery, post-surgery, either function in a body part, or, cognitive or something like that, would have really affected me. So they chose to leave it, and chemo and radiation will take care of it. And so from the MRI, that's actually what happened. God bless for that. Got the MRI, and there's no blood flow going to that spot. There's no activity in that spot. So the chemo and radiation, did its job, did what it needed to do. And then now from there, we're able to, decide, what the next steps are. And from there, it is, I'm on chemo for a year. So I started that in July, so I'll wrap that up next July in 2026, and continue to get MRIs, every 2 months, to just monitor that spot, make sure there's no regrowth, there's no blood flow going there, or anything like that, so I can just continue to stay healthy, and be the best me I can, quite honestly. This journey definitely has not been easy. I think for me it's definitely been a lot more of a mental journey than it has been physically. I think for me, physically, and my age definitely helped recovery a lot. Like I said earlier, had surgery on the 12th, and then discharged not even a week later from the hospital, and didn't even qualify for OT, and did PT for about 2 weeks, and that was it. So I also think that prayer, I know there are countless of people that prayed for me in my health throughout this whole time. I think that's something that definitely played a factor in this, and definitely played a major part in my story. And God's timing throughout all of this, I think, has been a key part of it all. From as simple as a fact of the fact that my mom was up here when I had the seizure, and the fact that she was driving. I could have been driving, and who knows, not be here today making this video. So just things like that. Even throughout my time in the hospital, that happened. That were definitely just God moments for sure. That definitely allowed me to be in the position I am today. And I think also what helped me was my mindset. It could have been easy for me to feel bad about myself, and not try to push myself. It could have been easy for me to say no to a lot of things, but instead sometimes you just gotta say yes, and gotta push through it. And I was talking to one of my buddies throughout this whole time. He was up here, and he was like, like post surgery, he was like, it's gonna be a challenge. It's gonna be hard. It's not gonna be easy. But he's like, if anyone can get through this, you can. He's like, the fact that you've already accomplished all this, you can get through it. And as simple as it sounds, you just got to go back to your athlete. So for those that don't know, I used to play baseball growing up all throughout my life. played at a D3 my freshman year up in Arkansas, and you know, he's like, as simple as it sounds, you know, you just gotta put your head down and keep grinding. You know, each day get better 1%. You know, if you know you were able to, you know, use a fork and knife with your left hand, you know, you got to take that as a win. You know, and you got to find, you know, each day, you know, find a win. And that's something that I've done to this day. You know, even, you know, still recovering now. You know, if I'm able to go, you know, like a whole day without a nap or something, you know, that's a win. You know, if I'm able to do this stuff with my left hand, you know, that's a win. So, you know, I think even in life in general, you know, I think it's a good practice, you know, to just find the wins and celebrate them when they happen, regardless of how small or how big. You know, you just gotta be appreciative of when it does happen, because you never know when those losses are gonna happen. So I just want to say thank you for watching this video. I truly do appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you take the time out of your day, you know, watch this, and you know, I'd actually love to make another one of these videos. So what I kind of want to do is answer your guys' questions for the next video. You know, y'all watching this, I'm sure you're gonna have questions that pop in your mind. So I'd love to answer your questions that you have about what my journey's been like from, you know, either my faith, you know, the science behind my tumor, you know, mindset, you know, mentally what this has been like, physically, you know, any sort of question at all. You know, I'm open to answering, and I'd love to answer, and you know, just share my story as much as I can. So leave a comment down below, whatever questions you have, or you know, if you know me or my family, you know, you can feel free to text us as well if you have any questions or anything at all. And I'd love to answer those next time. So stay tuned till next time. Love to make another one of these and answer your guys' questions. Thanks for watching.